The diplomatic vessel Harmony's Edge drifted silently through the void between star systems, its massive hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Inside the main conference chamber, representatives from 12 different species sat around, a circular table that seemed to float in the center of the room. The air recyclers hummed quietly as they mixed the various atmospheric requirements needed to keep everyone alive and comfortable. Hyunwoo adjusted his simple black suit and looked around the table at the assembled delegates. As the lead human representative, he had attended many such meetings over the past 3 years since humanity had been granted membership in the Galactic Council. But today felt different. The other species seemed more hostile than usual, their body language suggesting barely contained contempt. To his right sat So Min, a marine biologist who had been included in the delegation for her expertise in Earth's ecosystems. She wore a navy blue dress that was both professional and practical, her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her calm expression masked the intelligence that had earned her 3 degrees and a reputation as one of Earth's leading experts on oceanic life. On Hyunwoo's left, Taeho shuffled through his digital notes. As the cultural attaché, his job was to help other species understand human customs and history. He was younger than the other two, with an easy smile that usually put people at ease. Today, however, his smile seemed forced as he sensed the tension in the room. The Vorthak delegate Krikstal clicked his mandibles together in what Hyunwoo had learned was a sign of amusement. The insectoid creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a hard exoskeleton that gleamed like polished metal. His forearms ended in razor-sharp claws, and his compound eyes reflected the chamber's lights in thousands of tiny fragments. When he spoke, his voice buzzed with harmonics that made the universal translator work overtime. "I must confess," Krikstal said, "I remain puzzled by the Council's decision to include humans in our discussions. Your species lacks any notable physical advantages. No armor, no natural weapons, no enhanced senses. What exactly do you contribute to our alliance?" Several other delegates made sounds that the translator interpreted as laughter. The Nilhari representative Gloobmore shifted his bulbous amphibian body and added his own commentary. His skin was a mottled green-blue color that changed shades with his mood, and currently it showed dark patterns that indicated skepticism. "Indeed," Gloobmore said, his voice carrying the wet sound of someone speaking through gills. "On my homeworld, creatures with your physical characteristics would be classified as prey animals, small, soft, defenseless. How did such a species even survive long enough to develop space travel?" Hyunwoo kept his expression neutral, though he felt his jaw tighten slightly. "Humans have survived and thrived through intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. These qualities have served us well both on our homeworld and in space." The crystalline Quellian delegate chimed softly, a sound like wind through crystal formations. "Perhaps," the being said, "but intelligence without strength is merely clever prey. On worlds where real predators exist, thinking does not always prevent becoming food." More laughter rippled around the table. The gaseous Ethimori representative, existing as a controlled cloud of particles within a containment field, pulsed with colors that indicated amusement. Even the usually neutral silicon-based rocklings seemed to vibrate with what might have been mirth. Taeho cleared his throat and activated the holographic display system. "Perhaps you would be interested in seeing our homeworld. Earth has produced a remarkable variety of life forms and environments." The display shimmered and showed Earth from space, a blue and green marble hanging in the darkness. Continents drifted by, showing vast oceans, snow-capped mountains, dense forests, and sprawling cities. The image was beautiful, peaceful, almost serene in its calm presentation of a world in balance. Krikstal's mandibles clicked even more rapidly. "As I suspected, a nursery world. Look at those gentle oceans, those soft green lands. Your planet appears to be one enormous garden, perfectly safe and comfortable. No wonder your species evolved without proper defenses. You never needed them." Glubmore's skin patterns shifted to show even darker skepticism. "Where are the lava flows? The acid rain? The predator packs? Your world looks like a vacation resort compared to any real planet. I am beginning to understand why humans are so delicate. Other delegates murmured agreement. The Vorthak homeworld was a harsh place, of constant volcanic activity and flying predators with wingspans that could cover a building. The Nelhari came from a world of boiling oceans and toxic atmospheres. To them, Earth looked impossibly tame and safe. Your cities, observed the Ethmori delegate. They appear to be built on flat ground near water sources. On our world only, the weakest creatures seek such exposed locations. The strong build their homes in places that test their endurance daily. A younger Vorthak delegate named Zeknir leaned forward on his forearms. Unlike Crixtal, his exoskeleton still showed the brighter colors of youth, though it was already developing the battle scars that marked a proper warrior. I have studied human settlements. You build near oceans and rivers because you need constant access to water. Your bodies require it every few days or you die. Such weakness would be laughable if it were not so pathetic. Somin spoke for the first time since the presentations began. Water is indeed essential to human life. We are, after all, roughly 70% water ourselves. This statement caused an eruption of buzzing, clicking, and gurgling that the translator could barely keep up with. The concept of beings made mostly of water struck the assembled aliens as the height of vulnerability. 70% water? Zeknir repeated. How do you even maintain structural integrity? One puncture wound and you would leak away like a broken container. Our biological systems are quite efficient, Hyunwoo said carefully. We have redundant organs and remarkable healing capabilities. Crixtal waved one clawed hand dismissively. Healing implies damage in the first place. Proper beings do not require healing because they are not easily damaged. Your species seems designed for a world where nothing ever threatens you. The holographic display continued to show scenes from Earth. A peaceful coral reef with colorful fish swimming lazily. A forest where deer grazed quietly in a sunlit meadow. A beach where waves gently lapped at white sand. To the alien observers, it all looked impossibly calm and safe. I see no apex predators, Glubmore noted. Where are the creatures that test your species? What forced you to develop intelligence since you clearly could not develop proper physical capabilities? Tejo switched to images of human cities. Humans have built remarkable civilizations. We have art, literature, music, and scientific achievements that span thousands of years. Compensations. Crixtal buzzed. When a species cannot survive through strength, it must find other ways to justify its existence. These cultural achievements are merely proof of your biological inadequacy. The Rockling delegate rumbled deep tones that translated as ancient wisdom. In our experience, species that focus on art and philosophy do so because they lack the power to focus on survival. It is a luxury of the weak. Around the table, the mood had shifted from simple amusement to something approaching pity. The alien representatives looked at the three humans with the kind of condescending sympathy one might show to children playing at being adults. Somin remained quiet, but Hyunwoo noticed her hands had clenched into fists. Her expression was still calm, but her eyes had grown very cold. As a scientist who had spent years studying some of Earth's most dangerous creatures, she was hearing everything the aliens said with a perspective they could not possibly understand. The EU presentation ended with images of human space stations and colonies, clean, efficient, peaceful settlements where families raised children in safety and comfort. To the humans, these represented remarkable achievements in engineering and cooperation. To the aliens, they looked like elaborate nurseries designed to protect a species too weak to protect itself. Well then, Crixtal said as the display faded, I believe we have learned all we need to know about humanity's qualifications for council membership. Perhaps it is time to discuss more practical matters. The second day of negotiations began with what should have been routine trade discussions, but the atmosphere had grown noticeably colder overnight. Hyunwoo entered the conference chamber to find that the seating arrangement had changed. The EDA, Vorthak and Nelhari delegates now sat together, their body language suggesting they had formed some kind of alliance during the previous evening's private meetings. Krixtal stood as the humans took their seats, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's lights. Behind him, Glubmore's skin showed patterns of dark determination, while young Zeknir clicked his mandibles in barely contained excitement. The other species watched with varying degrees of interest, clearly aware that something significant was about to happen. Before we begin today's discussions, Krixtal announced, the Vorthak-Nelhari Coalition has prepared a proposal for new trade regulations that we believe will benefit the Council greatly. Hyunwoo exchanged glances with Somin and Taeho. Coalition was a strong word, and the fact that they had named their alliance suggested this was more than a casual partnership. The holographic display activated, showing star charts and trade routes throughout Council space. Red lines indicated current shipping lanes while blue ones showed proposed changes. At first glance, it looked like a simple efficiency improvement, but as Hyunwoo studied the details, the real purpose became clear. As you can see, Glubmore explained, his gills fluttering with satisfaction, we propose redirecting major shipping lanes away from systems that cannot adequately defend them. Several human colonies unfortunately fall into this category. The Awam proposed changes would cut off 3 human settlements from regular supply runs. These were new colonies barely established that depended on Council shipping to survive. Without regular deliveries of essential supplies, they would be forced to abandon their settlements within months. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Krixtal continued. Pirates, natural disasters, equipment failures. Shipping lanes require species with the strength and determination to protect them. We cannot risk valuable cargo on routes defended by less capable forces. Somin leaned forward slightly. Human defensive capabilities have proven adequate in all previous encounters. Our colonies have successfully repelled 3 separate pirate attacks in the past 2 years. Zeknir's compound eyes focused on her with what might have been amusement. Yes, we have read those reports. Humans hiding behind energy barriers while automated systems do the actual fighting. Where is the courage in that? Where is the strength? Strategic thinking and proper preparation, Taeho replied. Human military doctrine emphasizes efficiency over unnecessary risk. The young Vorthak made a sound that the translator interpreted as disdainful laughter. You mean cowardice over bravery? Real warriors face their enemies directly, strength against strength. Your species hides behind machines because you lack the physical capability for real combat. Other delegates around the table began to murmur among themselves. The Quellian representative chimed uncertainly, while the Ethmori delegates' colors shifted to show confusion and growing doubt. Even the neutral Rocklings seemed to be reconsidering their position. Perhaps, the Quellian said slowly, the coalition raises valid concerns. If humans cannot defend shipping lanes through personal strength, how can we trust them with valuable cargo? Hyunwoo felt the momentum in the room shifting against them. The success rate of human-defended shipping is 97%. That is higher than the galactic average. Statistics, Krixtal buzzed dismissively. Numbers on a screen. What happens when the machines fail? What happens when the barriers fall? Can humans stand and fight with claw and fang and natural ability? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Around the table, alien eyes and sensors focused on the 3 humans with renewed skepticism. Hyunwoo realized that logical arguments about efficiency and success rates were not going to work here. These species respected physical prowess above all else, and to them humanity's reliance on technology was proof of inherent weakness. We propose, Glubmore said, his skin patterns showing confident victory, that trade routes be managed by species that have proven their strength through natural selection. Resources should flow to those who can protect them through their own power, not artificial tools. The implications went far beyond shipping lanes. If the Council accepted this reasoning, humans could find themselves excluded from mining rights, colonization permits, and eventually full membership itself. It was a carefully crafted argument designed to sound reasonable, while systematically dismantling human participation in galactic civilization. Taeho activated his datapad and projected images of human achievements. Humans have contributed significantly to Council science and technology. Our medical advances have saved lives across 12 species. Our agricultural techniques have improved food production on 17 worlds. Useful services, Krixtal acknowledged with false generosity. No one disputes that humans can be valuable assistants, but leadership, protection, the real work of galactic civilization, these require strength that your species simply does not possess. Zeknir stood up, his forearms spread wide in a gesture that showed his claws to full advantage. Look at us, then look at yourselves. I am twice your height, 4 times your strength, protected by armor that has turned aside plasma bolts. My homeworld taught me to fight before I could walk properly. What did your homeworld teach you? The question was directed at So Min, who had been quietly observing the proceedings. She looked up at the young Vorthak warrior with an expression that remained perfectly calm. My homeworld taught me many things, she said softly, perhaps more than you might expect. Zeknir's mandibles clicked with amusement, such as how to cultivate gardens, how to swim in gentle pools. Your world appears to have been one long lesson in safety and comfort. Earth's oceans cover 71% of our planet's surface, So Min replied. They contain environments and creatures that might surprise you. Gentle fish and floating plants, no doubt, the young warrior said. I have seen your planet's images. Everything appears designed for maximum comfort and minimum challenge. Other delegates were nodding agreement. The peaceful scenes they had witnessed the previous day had convinced them that Earth was essentially a giant nursery world where nothing dangerous had ever existed. The Coalition's proposal has merit, the Ethmori delegate pulsed in colors of agreement. Species that have never faced real predators cannot be expected to understand the challenges of a hostile galaxy. Hyunwoo watched as more delegates began to show signs of support for the new trade regulations. The Rocklings rumbled approval, while several smaller species indicated their willingness to go along with the stronger powers. If humans wish to maintain their current status, Krixtal announced, they must demonstrate that they possess natural strength worthy of respect, not technological tricks or statistical arguments, but proof that your species can survive and fight using the abilities evolution gave you. And how exactly, Hyunwoo asked carefully, would we provide such proof? Glubmore's skin patterns shifted to show satisfaction at the question. Tell us about your homeworld's predators. Show us the creatures that forged your species into something capable of survival. Describe the natural enemies that taught humans to be strong. The challenge was clear and cleverly constructed. If humans admitted that Earth had no dangerous predators, it would confirm the aliens' belief that humanity was a weak species from a safe world. But if they tried to invent or exaggerate threats, the lie would be obvious to beings who had grown up facing real dangers. Zeknir leaned forward, his eyes glittering with anticipation. Yes, tell us about these fearsome Earth beasts. What creatures did your ancestors battle with tooth and claw? What monsters taught you the meaning of strength? So Min looked around the table at the assembled aliens. She could see the trap they had constructed, the careful way they had maneuvered the conversation to this point. They expected her to either admit weakness or attempt some transparent deception. Instead, she smiled. It was not a particularly large smile, just a slight upward curve of her lips, but something about it made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. There was something in her expression that did not match their expectations of a weak creature from a safe world. Where should I begin? She asked quietly. So Min stood slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. The conference chamber fell quiet as she activated the holographic display system, her fingers moving across the controls with practiced precision. The other delegates watched with expressions ranging from skeptical amusement to barely concealed mockery. You asked about Earth's predators, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. I think it would be appropriate to start with our oceans, since you seem to view them as particularly peaceful and safe. The display shimmered and showed Earth's blue seas from orbit. Sunlight danced on the surface, creating patterns of silver and gold that looked impossibly serene. Several aliens made sounds of confirmation, as if this peaceful image proved their point about humanity's soft origins. Earth's oceans contain approximately 1.37 billion cubic kilometers of water, So-Min continued. They range in depth from shallow coastal areas to trenches that descend more than 11 kilometers below the surface. The pressure at those depths would crush most of your species' bodies instantly. Zeknir clicked his mandibles dismissively. Depth and pressure are not predators. They are environmental hazards, nothing more. You are correct, So-Min agreed. They are not predators themselves, but they are home to predators that have existed far longer than any species represented in this chamber. The display changed to show a cross-section of ocean depths. Different zones were highlighted in various colors, from the bright surface waters down to the absolute darkness of the deep trenches. Numbers appeared beside each zone, showing temperature, pressure, and light levels. Let me tell you about sharks, So-Min said. The word meant nothing to the universal translators, which simply repeated it in each species' language as an unknown term. The aliens waited with polite patience for an explanation of what they assumed would be another harmless Earth creature. The holographic display shifted to show a torpedo-shaped form gliding through blue water. At first glance, it looked elegant, almost graceful. But as the image rotated to show different angles, details became visible that made several delegates lean forward with growing interest. This is a great white shark, So-Min explained. They can grow to lengths of 6 meters and weigh over 2,000 kilograms. Their bodies are built for one purpose: hunting and killing other creatures in the ocean. The display zoomed in on Nida, the creature's head revealing rows of triangular teeth. Each tooth was the size of a human thumb, serrated along the edges like tiny saws. Behind the front row, more rows were visible, creating a mouth that looked like a biological torture device. Sharks replace their teeth continuously throughout their lives, So-Min continued. A single shark can lose over 30,000 teeth in its lifetime. Each tooth is designed to slice through flesh, bone, and armor with maximum efficiency. Krixtal's compound eyes focused more intently on the display. These teeth appear functional, but surely such a creature is rare. A unique specimen that your species has learned to avoid? So-Min's smile widened slightly. There are over 500 species of sharks in Earth's oceans. They have existed for over 400 million years, which means they survived multiple mass extinction events that eliminated most other life forms on our planet. They are, quite literally, living fossils that have remained virtually unchanged because their design is already perfect. The display showed different shark species in sequence: bull sharks with their aggressive, stocky bodies, tiger sharks with their distinctive stripes and crushing jaws, hammerhead sharks with their bizarre, flattened heads that housed enhanced sensory organs. Their sensory capabilities are remarkable, So-Min said, her voice taking on the tone of a lecturer who genuinely loved her subject. They can detect electrical fields as weak as 5 billionths of a volt. This means they can sense the heartbeat of another creature from several kilometers away. Globemore's skin pattern shifted to show unease. On his homeworld, electrical sensitivity was a trait possessed only by the most dangerous apex predators. They also possess lateral line systems that detect water movement and pressure changes. A shark can feel the motion of a fish swimming from great distances, even in complete darkness. Their sense of smell is so acute that they can detect 1 part blood in 10 billion parts water. The Ethmori delegate pulsed colors of disbelief. Such sensory abilities would make them nearly impossible to hide from. How does any other creature survive in your oceans? Many don't, So-Min replied simply. Sharks are extremely efficient killers. A great white shark can accelerate to speeds of over 50 kilometers per hour and breach completely out of the water when attacking prey. Their bite force has been measured at over 18,000 newtons. She paused to let the numbers sink. And most of the species around the table were familiar with force measurements from their own military applications. 18,000 newtons was enough to bite through metal plating. But surely, Zeknir said, his voice losing some of its earlier confidence, your species has learned to stay away from these creatures. You build your cities on land, far from such dangers? So-Min activated her personal datapad and linked it to the chamber's display system. Actually, humans interact with sharks regularly. Let me show you some footage from our research expeditions. The holographic display filled with an underwater scene that made several delegates recoil in their seats. A human figure in a dark yellow wetsuit swam calmly through blue water while massive sharks glided around them like living torpedoes. The sharks were close enough to touch, their cold black eyes visible in disturbing detail. "This is Dr. Kim, one of my colleagues," So-min explained as they watched the human swim alongside a great white that dwarfed the tiny figure. "She is conducting a behavioral study on shark feeding patterns. The water you see is off the coast of South Africa, where great whites gather to hunt seals." One of the sharks in the footage turned toward the camera, its mouth opening to reveal the horrifying rows of teeth they had seen in the earlier images. The human researcher did not retreat but instead moved closer, apparently taking notes on a waterproof tablet. "This is insane," the Quellian delegate chimed in harmonics of distress. "Why would any rational being deliberately enter the hunting ground of such creatures?" "Scientific research," So-min replied as if this were the most obvious thing in the world. "We study sharks to better understand their behavior, biology, and ecological role. This particular expedition was investigating how great whites select their prey." The footage continued, showing more humans in the water with different species of sharks. Bull sharks circling around researchers in murky river water, hammerheads swimming in formation while humans floated nearby. Tiger sharks investigating underwater cameras with obvious curiosity. "These humans appear to be protected somehow?" Krixtal buzzed uncertainly. "Shields? Armor? Some form of technology that repels the creatures?" So-min shook her head. "Basic. Wetsuits for thermal protection and breathing apparatus to stay underwater longer. No weapons, no shields, no armor. Just humans swimming in the same water as apex predators." The chamber had grown very quiet. Even the ambient sounds of the life support systems seemed muted as the aliens stared at the impossible footage of fragile beings calmly sharing space with living weapons. "Perhaps these are specially trained humans?" Globemore suggested, his skin showing patterns of deep confusion. "Elite warriors who have spent their entire lives preparing for such encounters?" "Dr. Kim has a doctorate in marine biology," So-min said. "She grew up in Seoul, one of our major cities. She learned to swim in public pools and had never seen a shark until she was 23 years old. The other researchers in these images include accountants, teachers, and retired office workers who participate in citizen science programs during their vacations." The silence stretched longer. Taeho glanced at Hyunwoo and saw his own amazement reflected in the diplomat's expression. They had known So-min was a marine biologist, but they had not realized the extent of what that meant. In practical terms, vacations? The Rockling delegate rumbled in deep, uncertain tones. "Your species enters the territory of these predators for recreation?" So-min nodded. "Shark diving is a popular tourist activity. Humans pay significant amounts of money for the opportunity to swim with great whites, bull sharks, and other species. We have an entire industry built around bringing ordinary people to locations where they can observe sharks in their natural habitat." She switched to new footage, showing groups of humans on boats, preparing to enter shark-infested waters. They were laughing, taking pictures, clearly excited about the upcoming encounter. Some appeared to be elderly, others were obviously young adults on vacation. "These people seem happy," Zeknir observed, his voice hollow with disbelief. "Sharks are magnificent creatures," So-min said with genuine enthusiasm. "They represent 400 million years of evolutionary perfection. Many humans find them beautiful and fascinating rather than frightening." The display showed a sequence of a great white shark breaching completely out of the water, its massive body suspended in air for a moment before crashing back into the sea. The raw power of the movement was undeniable, and several delegates made involuntary sounds of alarm. "And this," So-min said quietly, "is just the beginning." The holographic display shifted again, and this time the image that appeared made even Krixtal lean back in his chair. A translucent, bell-shaped creature drifted through the water with ethereal grace, its body pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that created an almost hypnotic effect. "This is a box jellyfish," So-min said, her tone remaining conversational despite the horrified reactions around the table. They are found in the coastal waters of northern Australia, where humans regularly swim and surf. The camera angle changed to show the creature's tentacles, which trailed behind it like deadly ribbons. They were nearly transparent, making them almost invisible in the water, and stretched for several meters in every direction. Each tentacle contains millions of specialized cells called nematocysts. When activated, these cells inject a neurotoxin that is among the most lethal substances known to biological science. A single sting from a large box jellyfish contains enough venom to kill 60 adult humans within 3 minutes. Glubmore's skin had shifted to colors that indicated extreme alarm. On his homeworld, creatures that could kill with a single touch were rare and treated with religious reverence. The idea of them floating freely in waters where people swam for pleasure was beyond his comprehension. The venom attacks the nervous system, cardiovascular system, and skin cells simultaneously, So-Min continued. Victims experience excruciating pain, cardiac arrest, and skin necrosis. Those who survive often bear permanent scars from the encounter. Surely, the Quellian delegate chimed frantically. Your species has eliminated these creatures from areas where humans gather, or at least built barriers to keep them away. So-Min shook her head. Box jellyfish are part of the ocean ecosystem. During certain seasons, beaches may post warnings about their presence, but swimming and diving continue. Some humans wear protective suits, others simply accept the risk as part of ocean recreation. The display changed to show surfers riding waves in the same waters where box jellyfish had been documented. Young humans balanced on boards, clearly enjoying themselves, apparently unconcerned about the deadly creatures that might be drifting nearby. This is madness, Zeknir whispered, his earlier bravado completely gone. How does your species maintain any population if you deliberately expose yourselves to such dangers? Box jellyfish are actually relatively rare encounters, So-Min explained, but they are not the only venomous creatures in our oceans. The holographic display began cycling through a series of images that sent visible shudders through the assembled delegates. A small, colorful octopus with distinctive blue rings covering its skin. A fish that looked exactly like a piece of coral until it moved, revealing wicked spines along its back. A cone-shaped shell that contained a creature capable of launching harpoon-like teeth loaded with paralytic toxins. The blue-ringed octopus, So-Min said as the first creature pulsed its warning colors. No larger than a golf ball, but its bite delivers enough tetrodotoxin to kill 26 adult humans. The toxin blocks sodium channels in nerve tissue, causing rapid paralysis and respiratory failure. Victims remain conscious but cannot move or breathe. Several delegates made sounds of revulsion. The idea of remaining aware while slowly suffocating was a nightmare scenario for any oxygen-breathing species. The stonefish, she continued as the display showed the coral-like creature, has 13 venomous spines along its dorsal fin. Stepping on one causes immediate unbearable pain followed by tissue death, paralysis, and cardiac arrest. They are nearly impossible to see because they look exactly like the rocks and coral where they live. The cone shell appeared next, innocent and beautiful until the camera showed the deadly apparatus hidden inside. Cone snails use a radula tooth that works like a hypodermic harpoon. Their venom contains over 100 different compounds that attack the nervous system in multiple ways simultaneously. There is no antidote for most species. Krixtal's mandibles had stopped clicking entirely. His species prided itself on being apex predators, but the creatures So-Min was describing would be dangerous even to a fully armored Vorthak warrior. And humans swim in waters containing all of these creatures? He asked, his voice barely audible through the translator. Every day, So-Min confirmed, millions of humans enter Earth's oceans for work, recreation, and sport. Commercial fishing, recreational diving, competitive swimming, surfing, sailing. Our entire civilization is built around the assumption that we can safely interact with an environment that contains thousands of species capable of killing us. The display shifted to show human children playing in shallow ocean water, building sandcastles and chasing small waves. Their laughter was clearly audible, and they showed no signs of fear or caution despite being in an environment that the aliens now understood to be incredibly dangerous. Children, Glubmore observed, his skin pattern showing deep distress. You allow your young to enter these death zones? Ocean beaches are popular family destinations, Somin replied. Swimming lessons are considered basic childhood education. Many human children can swim before they can walk properly. Teho activated his data pad and added historical context to the display. Images appeared showing humans throughout history, interacting with the ocean. Ancient civilizations building cities on coastlines, explorers crossing vast seas in wooden ships, modern researchers diving to extreme depths. Humans have been ocean travelers for over 100,000 years, he said. Our earliest civilizations developed along coastlines and rivers. We have always lived alongside these predators. But surely you avoid the most dangerous areas, the Ethmori delegate pulsed hopefully. Surely you have learned which parts of your oceans are too perilous for human activity? So-Min's smile became almost predatory. Let me tell you about saltwater, crocodiles. The holographic display filled with an image that made every delegate in the chamber recoil. A massive reptilian form lurked in muddy water, only its eyes and the top of its skull visible above the surface. The creature was enormous, easily 6 meters long, with jaws that looked capable of biting a hover car in half. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest living reptiles on Earth. They can grow to over 7 meters in length and weigh more than 1,000 kilograms. Their bite force exceeds 16,000 newtons, and they possess what we call a death roll behavior. The display showed underwater footage of a crocodile spinning rapidly while gripping prey, creating a whirlpool of violence that was disturbing to watch even through a holographic projection. They grab their prey and rotate their entire body to disorient and dismember the victim. The force generated can tear off limbs or crush bones to powder. They then store the body underwater until it decomposes enough to consume easily. Where? Krixtal asked in a voice that had become very small. Do these creatures live? Northern Australia, Southeast Asia, and the coastal regions of the Indian Ocean. Areas where millions of humans live, work, and vacation. The display showed human settlements along rivers and coastlines where saltwater crocodiles were known to hunt. People fishing from small boats, children swimming in rivers, tourists taking photographs from what appeared to be dangerously close distances. Crocodiles are ambush predators, So-Min continued. They can remain motionless for hours, then explode from the water at speeds of over 40 kilometers per hour. They attack anything that comes within range, including humans, and they actively hunt in areas where people gather. This is impossible, Zeknir said, his voice cracking with stress. No species could survive surrounded by so many apex predators. You would have been extinct within generations. So-Min looked around the table at the horrified faces of the alien delegates. She could see the exact moment when their understanding of humanity began to shift from contempt to something approaching terror. Oh, we are just getting started, she said quietly. I have not even begun to describe the land predators yet. The silence that greeted this statement was absolute. Even the ship's life support system seemed to quiet as every being in the chamber contemplated the implications of what they had just heard. Land predators? The Rockling delegate rumbled in harmonics of dread. So-Min nodded and gestured to Teho, who began loading new files into the display system. Images of vast forests, sweeping grasslands, and snow-covered mountains appeared, looking deceptively peaceful in the soft light of the projection. Earth's land surface covers approximately 149 million square kilometers, So-Min said. And humans have populated nearly every habitable area, despite the fact that we share these environments with creatures that make our ocean predators look gentle by comparison. So-Min stood quietly for a moment, looking around the table at the assembled delegates. Their earlier confidence had evaporated completely, replaced by a mixture of horror and fascination that she found oddly satisfying. She had spent her entire career studying Earth's most dangerous predators, and finally had an audience that truly appreciated their magnificence. Before I continue with land predators, she said, her voice carrying a note of amusement, I should clarify something important. Everything I have described so far, all these creatures that you find so terrifying, they are not Earth's apex predator. The silence that greeted this statement was so complete that the soft hum of the ship's engines became clearly audible. Crickstall's compound eyes focused on her with laser intensity, while Globmore's skin patterns had shifted to colors that indicated complete bewilderment. Not the apex predator, Zeknir repeated weakly. Then what is? Somin's smile became genuinely warm. For the first time during the entire presentation, we are. She gestured to Teho, who activated a new sequence of images. The holographic display filled with scenes of early human history, showing primitive humans with simple tools moving across vast landscapes in small groups. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, Somin explained. We would identify prey and follow it across enormous distances, sometimes for days at a time, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. No other creature on Earth could match our endurance over long distances. The display showed a reconstruction of an ancient hunt, with humans jogging steadily after a large antelope across African grasslands. The animal would sprint ahead, then stop to rest, but the humans never stopped. They maintained their steady pace hour after hour under the blazing sun. Our prey would run until their muscles failed, until they literally could not take another step. Then we would walk up to them and kill them with simple tools. It was not strength or speed that made us deadly. It was persistence. Glubmore's skin showed patterns of deep unease. You hunted through endurance. Among other methods, Teho added, pulling up additional historical data. Humans also developed coordinated pack tactics, sophisticated tool use, and most importantly, we never gave up. When we decided something needed to die, we followed it until it died. The holographic display shifted to show human expansion across Earth's surface. Starting from Africa, red dots spread across every continent, marking human settlements in environments that the aliens now understood were filled with deadly predators. We eliminated the saber-toothed cats, Somin continued. We hunted the giant short-faced bears to extinction. We killed off the cave lions, the dire wolves, the giant hyenas. Anything that posed a threat to human expansion, we systematically destroyed. Images appeared of massive prehistoric predators, each one looking capable of devastating entire alien colonies. Beside each image, a date appeared marking when the species had gone extinct, usually shortly after humans arrived in their territory. Girtorwain, woolly mammoth, the giant ground sloth, the marsupial lion, Teho recited as the images changed. Over 100 species of megafauna eliminated within a few thousand years of human expansion. The pattern was consistent across every continent we colonized. Crixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. But surely some predators were too dangerous to confront directly. Surely some creatures forced humans to develop defensive strategies? Somin activated her personal data pad again, showing footage that made several delegates actually push back from the table. Humans in simple clothing were walking calmly through environments that were clearly full of deadly animals. This is the Maasai people of East Africa, she explained as the display showed humans living alongside lions, leopards, and other predators. They have coexisted with some of Earth's most dangerous hunters for thousands of years. Young Maasai, warriors prove their courage by killing lions with spears. The footage showed a group of humans approaching a pride of lions, armed with nothing but pointed sticks and leather shields. The lions, each one a perfect killing machine, retreated from the advancing humans. Lions avoid humans, Somin said simply. Despite being larger, stronger, and better armed naturally, they have learned through thousands of years of experience that humans are more dangerous. This cannot be accurate, Zeknir protested, his voice hollow with disbelief. Those creatures are clearly apex predators. How could they fear beings without natural weapons? Because we are better predators, Somin replied. We may not have claws or fangs, but we have something more dangerous. We think, we plan, we coordinate, and most importantly, we never stop. Teho brought up military historical records, showing human conflicts throughout history. When humans fight wars, we sometimes continue for decades or even centuries. The 100 Years' War lasted 116 years. We kept fighting for over a century because neither side would surrender. The display showed battlefields where humans had fought with increasingly sophisticated weapons, always adapting, always improving their ability to kill more efficiently. We domesticated wolves, So-Min continued. We took the ancestors of your pack predators and turned them into our hunting companions. We bred them for specific traits, creating hundreds of different varieties optimized for different types of prey. Images of dogs appeared, from tiny companions to massive hunting breeds. The aliens stared at creatures that were clearly descended from dangerous predators but had been transformed into loyal servants. We domesticated horses, cattle, pigs, chickens. We took wild animals and changed them to suit our needs. Some we bred for food, others for labor, others for companionship. We reshaped entire species to serve human purposes. The holographic display showed modern Earth, with its carefully managed ecosystems and protected wildlife reserves. To the aliens, it now looked completely different than it had at the beginning of the presentation. Those peaceful oceans you saw, So-Min said, they are peaceful because we made them that way. We eliminated the predators that were too dangerous. We managed the populations of those we allowed to survive. And we built our civilization on the assumption that we are the most dangerous thing in any environment. Hyunwoo spoke for the first time since So-Min had begun her presentation. You asked why such a delicate species was granted council membership. The answer is that we are not delicate. We are from what you would call a death world, and we are the reason it is a death world. The aliens around the table sat in stunned silence, their earlier contempt completely evaporated. They were beginning to understand that their fundamental assumptions about humanity had been catastrophically wrong. Your space stations and colonies, Krikstal said slowly. They appear so peaceful, so safe, because we designed them that way, Taeho replied. Humans learned long ago that we are so effective at killing that we had to learn to be gentle with everything else, including each other. Our peaceful settlements are not a sign of weakness. They are proof that we are strong enough to choose peace. So-Min deactivated the holographic display and returned to her seat. You suggested that humans should prove our worth through natural strength rather than technology. But our technology is not a replacement for natural ability. It is an extension of natural ability that allowed us to become the most successful predator our planet has ever produced. Glubmore's skin patterns shifted to show something the translator interpreted as profound respect, mixed with terror. What happened to the creatures that were too dangerous for humans to coexist with? So-Min looked directly at him, her expression perfectly calm. What dangerous creatures? We eliminated them all. The conference chamber remained silent for several long minutes as the implications of humanity's true nature settled over the assembled delegates. Species that had dominated their own worlds, that had fought their way to the top of evolutionary hierarchies through strength and cunning, were forced to confront the reality that they were sharing space with something unprecedented. Finally, the Rockling delegate spoke in harmonics so low they barely registered on the translators. The trade route proposal, he rumbled. Perhaps it requires further consideration. Krikstal's compound eyes remained fixed on the three humans. Indeed, it appears we may have underestimated certain factors in our analysis. Over the following hours, the tone of the negotiations changed completely. The Vorthok-Nelhari coalition quietly withdrew their proposal for new shipping regulations. Other species began reviewing their existing agreements with humans, but now from a position of cautious respect rather than contempt. When the formal sessions ended, several delegates approached So-Min privately to request copies of her presentation materials. The Quellian representative wanted to share the information with their homeworld's xenobiology departments, while the Ethmori delegate expressed interest in establishing exchange programs to study human predator management techniques, as UO. The human delegation prepared to return to their quarters. Zeknir approached them hesitantly. The young Vorthok warrior looked significantly smaller than he had at the beginning of the conference. Dr. So-Min, he said, his voice carefully respectful, I owe you an apology for my earlier comments about your species. I spoke from ignorance. So-Min nodded graciously. No offense taken. It is natural to judge by appearances. Most species do not expect predators to look